Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Ukrainian Couple. So today's topic is one that I've been thinking about for quite some time, and that is, why doesn't Ukraine just surrender? Or rather, why Ukraine cannot surrender and will not surrender? Because the war is dragging on for 6 months now, it's half a year, and for all intents and purposes, it's going to drag on for another 6 months. It's going to go well into the winter and maybe in the spring, because we all know that Russia is going to continue having money throughout the winter because it has to sell its natural gas to Europe, and there's no talk of the natural gas supplies being shut off just yet. As far as I know, January 2023 is when Europe will stop buying Russian oil, but gas is fair game. And you also have to remember that Russian gas is supplied to Europe by pipeline, and there's a fat chance that any sanctions are going to hit Russia on natural gas deliveries to Europe. So yeah, we've concluded that the war is going to go on for some time, but people are asking, why can't Ukraine just give in? Why can't they just give in to some of Russia's concessions? And why can't they just, maybe even surrender, right? And in this video, I'm going to tell you guys why that is not possible and why Ukraine will not surrender. It just doesn't have an option to. And you're going to ask me, well, how is that possible? If this war is going to drag on for so long, the Ukrainians are going to see so much death, destruction, the economy is going to take a hit, they're going to lose people. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why Ukraine would rather go through all of that than surrender to Russia. You have to understand that Ukrainians have been oppressed by Russia for centuries, for a very long time. And Ukrainians have known it, even though it has been suppressed by Russia or the Soviet Union for quite some time. Now, more Ukrainians than ever know about it, and of course, the world knows about it too. But nowadays, if you've been listening to Russian propaganda, or maybe you came across this sort of train of thought that Ukrainians have no culture, and Russian culture is this majestic, this great culture, right, of writers like Tolstoy and Pushkin, and Ukraine doesn't have a culture like that. You would be surprised to know, or maybe not surprised if you've read any history, that Russians have persecuted Ukrainians for centuries. So in other words, over that period of time, over these centuries, Russia has systematically murdered or killed or imprisoned Ukrainian artists, writers, intellectuals, thinkers. And then the fact that Ukrainian nation still exists is just testament to Ukrainians' resilience, right? And their ability to unite with each other in the face of adversarial situations. We can't really forget that. We have to value the fact that Ukrainian language, Ukrainian culture, and Ukrainian people still exist as a people despite these centuries of oppression. There were 3 bouts of starvation in Ukraine that were perpetuated by Russians. We all know about the Holodomor, the famine perpetuated by Stalin between 1932 and 1933. According to various estimates, we're looking at least 10 million dead in those 2 years alone. However, there were 2 other bouts of famine that killed many Ukrainians as well, and it happened 10 years before that in 1922, and right after World War II was over in 1946. So notice that this Holodomor was not a one-time occurrence. It was a systemic desire to exterminate the Ukrainian people. And the story is always the same, right? Ukrainian farmers produce ample foods, Russians come at gunpoint, and then they confiscate all the food, and then they dump it somewhere and leave it to rot. And the thing is, the Russians didn't even need that. They had enough food for themselves. They just had to take food from Ukrainians to starve them to death. Anyway, Ukrainians suffered under Tsarism, the Soviet Union, Stalinism, all the way until 1991, when they finally got a taste of their freedom. So I think that people born after that time are relatively free of this pervasive Soviet thinking. Ukraine was on a political roller coaster with Russia all the way until 2014, when Yanukovych was ousted and the Ukrainians got a real, truly elected democratic leader. They also, under Poroshenko, got a taste of what life would be like in a free democratic country. They've got visa travel to Europe, they've got an independent National Bank of Ukraine, and they've got an independent Ukrainian church. So once you've tasted that freedom, regressing back into slavery and oppression is unthinkable for people. Let's consider what would happen to those that would survive. It would mean oppression, it would mean robbery, it would mean exploitation, it would mean periodic mass murder, it would mean periodic mass graves. It means no more free elections. It means they can't speak Ukrainian anymore. It means no free speech, no freedom of expression, no freedom of mass media. It would mean no freedom of religion. You would have Kremlin-appointed stooges here and there. Basically, you'd have a life forced upon Ukrainians that they don't want. And really, that is why Ukrainians are fighting so hard. They know what the oppression is like. They know that the alternative is slavery. It's literal execution. It's literal being stripped away from your rights. It's literal just deportation. They know that this is what awaits them. So, as you can see, for many Ukrainians, surrender doesn't just mean death. It just means horrible torture and then death. So it's either death now on the battlefield or death, in a torture chamber, in some basement, or execution by firing squad. You're choosing between these two. I mean, even if Ukraine would get incorporated into Russia, at the very best case, it would be stuck as a no man's land. It would be like a gray zone. It would have to bury its prospects to joining the EU once and for all. So Ukrainians are fully aware of their situation. They're fully aware of the fate that awaits them. And that is why they're fighting so hard. That's why they're so tenacious. That's why they're so courageous. To us, it seems like they're courageous, but they're just fighting for their right to live. And that's it. And what does it mean for the West? What does it mean for the European Union? Well, it means that they must help them. They must do everything they can to help Ukrainians win, because you know what? It may seem unrealistic, but Europe is next, right? The Western world is next. So Russia's gonna come for you after it swallows up Ukraine. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. And until next time, guys.